Hello everyone, and welcome to this edition of NASCAR Underdogs. Rick Wilson. Rick Wilson is a former NASCAR Cup Series and Xfinity Series driver and owner. He spent time behind the wheel of several different NASCAR teams, including Morgan McClure Motorsports, the Stavola Brothers, and he was even the first driver Richard Petty picked to drive for him when he retired. This video will take you through his career year by year. Here we go. Wilson began his NASCAR career in 1980, driving a number 62 Florida Equipment and Service Oldsmobile that he owned. That first season, he attempted and qualified for 3 races. His best start was 12th at Charlotte in the fall, and his best finish was his debut Cup Series race at Daytona in the summer, finishing 15th. Wilson returned for the 1981 NASCAR Cup Series season, behind the wheel of his number 62 Florida Equipment and Service Oldsmobile. This season, the team attempted 9 races, DNQing for the Daytona 500, though qualifying for the 8 remaining races. His best start was 5th at Talladega in the spring, and his best finish was 11th at Atlanta in the fall. The team did have some speed, but they were plagued by DNFs, accumulating 6 DNFs in just 8 starts in that 1981 season. The Wilson Racing Team made another 8 NASCAR Cup Series starts in 1982. Wilson did find some success in 82, scoring his first 2 top 10s of his NASCAR career. The number 62 did lose their sponsor, running without a sponsor in 82. His best start was 12th at Talladega in the summer. Then his best finish was 9th at Atlanta in the spring. Rick also scored a top 10 later in the season at Charlotte, finishing 10th in the fall race. Overall, he scored 2 top 10s. The team still had some issues finishing races, though, racking up 5 DNFs in 8 starts in the 82 season. Then in 1983, Wilson and his number 62 Buick attempted the Daytona 500 but DNQ'd. The only other race the team attempted, Wilson qualified for the spring race at Talladega, starting 34th and finishing 37th. Wilson did not make any starts in the 1984 NASCAR season. Finally, in 1985, Wilson began finding rides with other teams, other than just the one that he owned. As a matter of fact, he stopped driving for himself altogether in the Cup Series. He made 2 NASCAR Cup Series starts, one for Bobby Wawak and his number 74 Superior Piping Chevrolet at Talladega in the summer, starting 32nd and finishing 29th, after falling out of the race due to an oil pump issue. In the fall, at Atlanta, he made 1 start for Hoss Ellington in his number 21 Ellington Insulation Chevrolet, starting 31st and finishing 18th. Wilson took his Wilson Racing Team and moved them down to the Xfinity Series. Now, he ran number 69 Wilson Racing Oldsmobile, and he made 3 Xfinity Series starts that season in 85. His best start was 24th, and his best finish was 27th, both coming at Darlington in the fall. Rick Wilson finally hooked up with a team he would find some consistency with in 1986. He made 17 NASCAR Cup Series starts behind the wheel of the Morgan McClure Motorsports number 4 Oldsmobile. The Morgan McClure Motorsports team picked up very solid sponsorship from Kodak Film midway through the season. His best start was 5th at Dover in the fall, and his best finish was 7th in the Daytona 500. Overall, he scored 4 top 10s. Even though he ran just over half the races, he still finished 28th in final points. The Wilson Racing Team attempted 2 Xfinity Series races, driving his own number 69 Captain Cody's Oldsmobile. He DNQ'd for the season opener at Daytona, though he did qualify for Darlington in the spring, starting 17th and finishing 4th. Very solid run. The 1987 NASCAR Cup Series season was more of the same for Rick Wilson. He was behind the wheel of the Morgan McClure Motorsports number 4 Kodak Film Oldsmobile, with Tony Glover on the box serving as crew chief for the team. Wilson's best start was 4th at Dover in the fall, and his best finish was 7th at Bristol in the summer. Overall, he only managed to score that 1 lone top 10. In 19 starts, Wilson DNF'd 10 of those times, so over half the races they didn't finish. Finally, in 1988, Wilson ran his first full-time NASCAR Cup Series season behind the wheel of the number 4 Kodak Film Oldsmobile. Full-time, like I said. His best start was 1st at Bristol in the spring. This was his first and only NASCAR Cup Series career pole. His best finish was second at Daytona in the summer, side by side with Bill Elliott fighting for the victory. Overall, he scored 1 pole, 0 wins, 2 top 5s, and 5 top 10s, finishing a reasonable 21st in final points. They would have finished in the top 20 in points, but they DNQ'd at Richmond in the spring. So they didn't score any points for that race. Again, in 1989, Rick Wilson returned to the number 4 Kodak Film Oldsmobile full-time. The team brought in Pete Wright to serve as crew chief for the team from Addington, Virginia. Rick's best start was 4th at Bristol in the spring, and his best finish was 4th at Martinsville in the spring. Wilson spent 8 of the first 9 races of the season inside the top 10 in NASCAR Cup Series point standings. Overall, he scored 2 top 5s and 7 top 10s, finishing 17th in final points. The reason he fell so far down in points was in part due to accumulating 6 DNFs in the last 11 races. Now, Wilson also made 12 Xfinity Series starts behind the wheel of the number 75 Food Country Oldsmobile for Charlie Henderson. His best start was 1st at Bristol in the spring, and his best finish was 1st twice at Bristol and Dover in the spring. This was both the first pole and the first 2 Xfinity Series victories of his career. Now, overall, he did score in the Xfinity Series 1 pole, 2 wins, 3 top 5s, and 4 top 10s. Though it was either the team finished inside the top 10 or they DNF. DNF being 8 out of the 12 starts in 89. And I mean, he scored 4 top 10s. So you add 8 and 4 together, that makes 12. So that's what I'm saying. He was either in the top 10 or behind the wall. Now, at the conclusion of the season, in 89, Wilson and Morgan McClure parted ways. A new decade, the 1990s, and Wilson made a move over to the number 75 Dinnerville Oldsmobile for Ray Mock Enterprises full-time. His best start was 11th at North Wilkesboro, and his best finish was 5th at Bristol in the spring. Overall, he scored 1 top 5 and 2 top 10s, finishing 23rd in final points. Wilson and the team had a tough season, DNFing 15 out of the 28 races. Rick made 1 Xfinity Series start in 90 at Bristol in the spring, driving a number 7 Skoal Buick owned by Ed Whitaker, starting 26th and finishing 29th after losing an engine only 63 laps into the race. After a difficult season, Wilson and Ray Mock Enterprises parted ways at the conclusion of the season. This was again a season that Wilson ran full-time in the NASCAR Cup Series in 1991. He was behind the wheel of the Stavola Brothers number 8 Snickers Buick. Legendary crew chief Harry Hyde served as the team's crew chief for the 1991 Cup Series season. His best start was 9th, twice at Rockingham and Dover in the spring, and his best finish was 12th at Atlanta in the spring. The team ended the season 26th in final points. The following season, in 1992, Wilson made 1 start for the Stavola Brothers in their number 8 Snickers Ford at the Daytona 500, starting 38th and finishing 23rd. Then the team and Wilson parted ways. He also made 1 start for Charlie Henderson in the number 77 Food Country USA Oldsmobile at Bristol in the fall, starting 5th and finishing 6th. At the conclusion of the 1992 season, the King, Richard Petty, retired after a long, incredible NASCAR Cup Series career. Petty chose Rick Wilson to replace him, driving a number 44 STP Pontiac full-time for the 1993 NASCAR Cup Series season. Robbie Loomis served as the team's crew chief. His best start was 4th at Talladega in the spring, and his best finish was 8th at Sonoma in the spring. Overall, that 8th place finish was the only top 10 of the entire season. He finished 28th in final points. In the Xfinity Series, Wilson made 9 more starts driving the number 75 Food Country Oldsmobile. And along the way, his best start was 4th, and his best finish was 5th, both coming at Michigan in the summer. Overall, he scored 1 top 5 and 2 top 10s. They did DNF 6 out of the 9 starts, though, so that was a limiting factor of how much success he could achieve in the 1993 Xfinity Series season. That top 10 he scored at Sonoma in the spring in the Cup Series was his final career top 10 in that series. Also, at the end of the 93 season, Wilson and Petty Enterprises parted ways. Wilson did not make any starts at all in NASCAR in any series in 1994. In 1995, Wilson returned to NASCAR, making 13 Xfinity Series starts, attempting 15, but DNQing twice. He was behind the wheel of the number 75 Food Country USA Ford for Charlie Henderson again. His best start was 9th at Nashville, and his best finish was 8th at Talladega in the summer. Overall, he scored 2 top 10s. Chris Carrier served as crew chief for the team. Again in 96, Wilson was absent from NASCAR altogether. But then in 1997, Wilson got an opportunity to drive the number 27 Ford for David Blair Motorsports. Sliver Labby served as the team's crew chief. They attempted 4 races, qualifying for 3 of them. His best start was 31st at Michigan in the spring. His best finish was 19th at Charlotte in the fall. In those 3 starts, in a very underfunded car, he finished 21st twice and 19th in those 3 starts. These were his final 3 Cup Series starts. Wilson attempted 9 Xfinity Series starts, qualifying for 7 of those. He was behind the wheel of the number 75 Food Country USA Chevrolet for Charlie Henderson. His best start was 16th at Bristol in the spring, and his best finish was 5th at Bristol in the fall. Overall, scoring 1 top 5 and 1 top 10. This would end up being his final top 5 or top 10 in NASCAR. They DNF'd 4 out of the 7 races. Now, in 1998, Rick did attempt 3 NASCAR Cup Series races, one for SB3 number 58 Ford at Watkins Glen, then 2 races in the number 41 Kodiak Chevrolet, owned by Larry Hedrick, DNQing at Talladega and Daytona. He also attempted 1 Craftsman Truck Series race at Richmond in the fall, DNQing there as well in the number 04 Hobart Food Services Chevrolet. Now, at the conclusion of the 1998 season, Rick Wilson, more or less, his NASCAR career was over. Though in 2010, he did run a Legends exhibition race at Bristol Motor Speedway. He led 25 out of 35 laps and won that race, so that was pretty cool. Now, Wilson made 206 NASCAR Cup Series starts, scoring 1 pole, 0 wins, 5 top 5s, and 23 top 10s, with a best points finish of 17th in 1989. Then in the Xfinity Series, he made 47 starts, scoring 1 pole, 2 wins, 6 top 5s, and 11 top 10s, with a best points finish of 29th, also in 1989. Thanks for watching, everyone. Take care.